Well, hello again. This is Chad at the Advisor's Edge, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun today because we have with us today Adrian Johnstone at Practifi, and you'll also notice that we do not have Rob with us today. That ornery guy, he thinks he gets a vacation every once in a while, so he is with his spouse having a good time. It's summer when we're recording. Adrian, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm going to take it personally that Rob chose his spouse over me, but no, I'm great. I'm stoked to be joining you for a chat.
Oh, happy to have you here. And this is cool because you're the first. I'm pretty sure you're the first guy who's built his own CRM for advisors on our podcast, which is really cool from my perspective because I love to nerd out in all of this stuff. Okay. And so it's going to be just a conversation about we're digging into it. And the goal is for us to have something that's hopefully interesting for those to listen. It'll be fun for us, but also fun for the listener, right?
There's no danger. It'll be fun for us.
That's right. That's right. And so let's start with kind of where you began. I mean, creating a CRM for advisors is no small task. So let's start with a little background for you. Tell me, why in the world did you say, maybe you didn't start with, I want to start a CRM? Just a little background on where you came from.
Yeah, for sure. So my accent always gives away, but I did not come from the US. I came from Australia. And prior to being in Practifi, I ran a consultancy that dealt in the wealth space. So whether that was retirement or advice, but we did a lot of work around kind of the inflection point between strategy and technology. And if we go back, like Practifi has been around now a little over a decade. And so if we go back in time that far, if we can remember back that far, things were pretty simple from a tech perspective and everything was super isolated. And advisors really had a value proposition which was very asset or market improvement linked. They weren't really thinking about the relationship as much as they could. And so through the consultancy, I was spending a lot of time helping people understand that was going to change and that they needed to, we were living in an era where tech was starting to really revolutionize the consumer landscape that hadn't yet kind of made its way into the advised world. So you made the comment that I built my own. We kind of cheated a little there in that we use Salesforce as a chassis, but we recognize that as a platform, it's incredible. As a tool for advisors, it's pretty questionable. And so it became, how do we help advisors be ready for what was a massive shift in consumer expectation by helping them put the relationship at the middle of everything that they do. And so that pivot from consultant to founder in a tech company became really a continuation of that view of how do I help advisors be ready for what's to come?
Yeah. And was that, I mean, being in Australia, was that working at that time in Australia, or did you swing over here to across the Pacific first?
So no, we kicked off in Australia, and we still have a very vibrant business in Australia. We're actually in 4 countries now. But the thing for us was really with Australia is it's a small market when you look at it compared to the US, but it's actually a more complex market because everything is so condensed. And so regulation is tighter and tougher. Most firms are a blend of advice and accounting and lending and all this. So there's a lot of complexity.
Interesting.
So we built for that. And then when we came to the US, people are always like, oh, how big was the build journey to build for the US? And we're like, actually, in our case, mostly it was turning some things off that weren't needed.
Interesting.
So rather than expanding, we were contracting slightly from a functionality perspective.
Well, that's fascinating. Now, one of the things that's I'm gonna signal where the Advisor's Edge is going. I'm gonna have a guy from England on here, so the other pond, probably in the next month or two. And there's some new regulation in England that is shifting a lot from the more of the really to the advisors from a commission-based to a fee-based model. And apparently there's some legislation that is changing that. So we're going to have a conversation around that. Just out of curiosity, what's the other two countries?
So we have clients, obviously here. We have clients in Australia. We have clients in Canada.
Okay.
I kind of count it as one, but we have a client in New Zealand and we have some clients in the UK. So
okay, wow,
we cross over a lot of markets there. We kind of group Australia and New Zealand together to kind of bundle that up. But it's interesting, like what you're talking about from a legislation there. It's really interesting because Australia and the UK co-write a lot of the legislation from an industry perspective. So that shift commission to fee-based kind of prevalence is something that's already occurred in Australia.
Interesting. Okay, well, now it's going to England. So in a few weeks, maybe that'll be an interesting conversation for you to hear.
Yeah,
what so you're a global company, which is kind of cool. And one thing you mentioned there is you talked about consumer expectations.
Yep.
And I talk with my team about this a lot, actually. I said, look, guys, we are a very niche, very focused, in how we serve advisors, but we're being compared to the big companies, the Googles, the Amazon, as far as customer client experience, which is frankly, this is why we use Salesforce too. And it's like you say, it's a platform that we can iterate and go from there on. And there's no questions in the advisory space. It's very niche and unique thing. So if you would dig into a little bit, I mean, I love the concept that you build it on a platform to be able to improve it and take it to the next level from a niche standpoint. So if I'm saying something that it's not right, correct me. But I'd love to hear kind of your thinking around that, why you did it that way, and what's the benefit for the advisor.
Yeah, so I think the benefit for the advisor, if I start at that end, is that for a lot of advisory firms, they want access to enterprise-grade technology, quite rightly. There are a lot of smaller, more boutique, very industry-focused solutions, and it's not that they're bad, but people will necessarily grow out of that technology over time, or it sometimes doesn't evolve at the same pace as enterprise technology. And so when we were looking at Practifi, it was like, well, how do we kind of democratize enterprise technology? How do we take what the biggest businesses in the world are using as a platform, and then how do we sculpt that for the specific needs of those kind of independent advice firms? And so at the time and still today, Salesforce is by far the benchmark as a platform on the CRM front. But the lift for individual firms to customize it and to then maintain that and to do that is, I mean, it's just a silly amount of money to commit for the value you're going to get in return from that investment. Many do. We see a lot of people who are a long way down that path who are like, I can't keep throwing more money at this. And so what we've done is we've taken that tech stack and we don't take anything away. We've just done the project that makes it directly relevant to their business. And so that way they don't have that huge upfront expense. They just get to and go, well, this works for an RIA today. I didn't have to go and build it. Same tech stack exactly, same security, same performance, all that sort of stuff. They just didn't have to go and do the project. We did it for them.
Yeah. So I in my line of work, making assumptions is not a smart thing to do. So what I heard you say, and so I want to make sure I understand this. Let's say you're an advisory firm, maybe you're $1 billion RIA, you're using Salesforce already, and it's maybe working moderately well for you. If I came to Practifi and I said, hey, what you guys have is interesting, you can actually work with them and upgrade it, essentially take that project on and help them get more effective at that tool they already have. Is that right?
Not quite. So we wouldn't do that as a project in their existing Salesforce. So what they would do is they would become a Practifi client instead of a Salesforce client. and we would
Okay.
migrate them to Practifi, and they automatically inherit all of that big upgrade. So we're not there to kind of take over the build. We're there to move them to a better place, kind of like you get rid of your 2017 car and move to the 2026 model that's at the leading edge of what's coming. Instead of sitting there and saying, well, how do I keep pouring more money into the 2017 one and try and make it as safe and performant as the new one? So for a lot of those firms, and we work with firms today that are kind of 500 million, and we work with firms that are 50 and 60 billion. So we have, we handle that whole spread. But looking at their needs, it's really, how do they understand the client? How do they move work across the firm, no matter how big that is, whether it's tasks or processes? How do they drive growth? How do they understand the dynamics of reporting and analytics, all those sorts of things? We know what they are looking to do because we only work with independent advisory firms. So we've built that already. The workflows are there. They can tweak and adjust them. The reporting is standard, but it's able to be expanded. But if they start with kind of native Salesforce, that's a project, as you described. It's cost. It's in a project the next year and the next year and the next year. Whereas we're enhancing that platform for them along the way.
Great. And obviously those enhancements they get to enjoy. So you almost probably get a group sort of intelligence almost, or an institutional intelligence as it grows and develop. And so I might get into some technical stuff, maybe if you want to zoom out a little bit, but I'm just curious if they say, oh, that feature is really cool, does it automatically just show up for them, or you just say, hey, yeah, we want to turn it on or turn it off?
So
curious.
So when you start out with Practifi, we start with everything's available because I learned that more is better, and so we give people those things, and then where they want us to quiet it down, have fewer features or less power, maybe while they're learning and finding their feet, we can turn things off and then we can just turn them back on again. So that's no problem. But importantly, when they log in, every tool that they're looking at is for them. They're not looking at some generic industry platform that they're having to reconceive as something that fits an advice firm. Instead, they're looking at something that's built purely for advice firms. Same powerful platform, but they don't have that project to do.
I see. And then also when we're talking about that continuous improvement, which in the tech space is essentially, in my opinion, it's vital. Otherwise, you're just not. You're going to get run over at some point.
Yeah.
You're really outsourcing that to you. So not only have maybe they've switched from Salesforce to working with Practifi, but then you're also helping them elevate that part of the skill set that maybe they had somebody helping with, maybe not at all, and it was just kind of sitting there operating in the background.
Absolutely. So we push 5 upgrades a year. So new features, enhancements, and we feed that product roadmap by talking to our clients. So we have a range of forums and both digital and kind of meetings. Our product team and even our engineering team are constantly talking to clients. What would you like? What would you like more of? What can we adjust? How can we make this more efficient? And we take all of that insight. So, we might be working with, a 25-person RIA, and they've got all of the ideas they could possibly think of, but they're benefiting from another 10,000 users who also have their ideas, and we're putting it in. So that's that democratization of that enterprise kind of scale input without them having to go away and pay a consultant who maybe knows the industry, maybe they just know Salesforce. They're looking to you for all the ideas. So we bring all that power to bear, and we extend that to every client. If a client has ideas they want to feed in, they can feed them in. They have the mechanisms available to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, of course, we serve the RIA market, is our job, which is it is for you guys, which makes this a fun conversation, but totally sold on the idea of having that niche and knowing your client so well that they actually benefit from that institutional knowledge that you've built. So I love that.
No, it's awesome. It's it's what gets us up in the morning and out of bed and focused is, where is the industry going? We don't want our clients to be the only ones thinking about it. We want to understand. And I guess back as we were chatting earlier, part of the catalyst there is where is consumer expectation going? Because I think for the longest time, people started to see CRM as kind of client record maintenance instead of client relationship management. And so it really became this tool where you just put in the things you had to. And we're really trying to reset that expectation to say it should be something that is helping you guide your way through a relationship. What do I need to reach out? Where is there a growth opportunity? Where's their risk? Maybe this client hasn't been in touch as much as we would like them to be. I should give them a call. We want people to be able to look at a piece of technology that's actively helping them. And in the case of Practifi, we saw so many other pieces of technology that were only really focused on one relationship. It's like the advisor client or, operations to custodian. And so we're actually an app-based solution that when an advisor logs in, they see what an advisor wants to see, a client service person, what they want to see, a chief compliance officer, what they want to see. Because every role in an RIA deserves technology that's focused on their needs.
Well, I'd love to pivot a little bit. Before, as we were prepping for this discussion earlier this week, we were talking a little bit about AI and what's going on there. And you said something that was very interesting that stuck with me. And that's the idea of we know AI is a powerful tool, but there are CRMs that are, I don't know, they call themselves AI first. Maybe that's mostly a marketing thing. But you said something about structured data. And an interesting thing I was thinking, there's actually two sides of it. There's your structured data and then your structured process. The better they are structured, the more opportunity I think there is going to be to use these really interesting tools that are coming up with AI. But I want to hear your opinion and tell me a little bit more about structured data. Why is that important, and how does that help the advisors do better for their clients?
Yeah, for sure. So within data, there's very structured data. So you think of the pieces that sit in almost like a table in a database. If you visualize it, you log into the screen and it's like first name, surname, date of birth, social security number, whatever. It's all very structured. It's very predictable. Then there's unstructured data, like the content of an email or a document or something like that, where it's not in sortable fields where you can predict exactly what's going to be there. And I think with AI, it's phenomenally powerful. We're doing some amazing stuff with it now, both in the product and in our own business. This kind of language of AI first, and you don't need structured data anymore, and everyone just needs a window and they can type in what they want. And to me, it's a little bit where AI has the danger of becoming the hammer that is the tool that replaces everything in the toolbox, and it's not really the case. If you're an advisor and you've got to go and search for the basics of a client's information by prompting an AI to give it to you, that's less efficient than just typing in their name and seeing it all laid out in a structured, predictable way.
Right.
If you want to find out what they've talked to you about over the last year and get that in a summary, well, that's unstructured data, and it's really a place where AI is very powerful, because you'd otherwise have to go and read all those emails and documents and all that sort of stuff, and you just wouldn't do it. So for us, it's looking at finding the right balance there. How do you use AI to sort through unstructured data and perhaps turn some of it into updating structured data? If it's, if it can go and look at pets' names across the course of the last year and summarize that up and then create information in the pet field, then you don't have to ask it every time what the pet's name is. It's there. So it's finding that balance between it. And I think there's a little over bias towards everything can be unstructured moving forward. And it isn't necessarily always the best way. It's the right fit depending on what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, interesting point. We're doing some unique things here with AI too. And what's interesting is insurance contracts. People think of them as very structured. And so you would think you could just plug that in and it would tell you what you need to know. Not at all true. the context of it, the structure of how the AI actually thinks about it, which in Salesforce, you get a lot of support on that structure. The secret is I did a little bit of school in college on database management, but that was in the 90s. It gave me enough experience to get dangerous. But I like the way you're thinking about it. So it's actually almost a bridge. You're maybe, if I think about it, building a bridge between that structured and unstructured data and figuring out how to make that really useful. Is that right?
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to unlock all of the power of the information that's in the unstructured data. In your world, that might be the specific underwriting terms. Where there's a structured cell that says underwriting conditions, but the content within it is all unstructured. And you want to be able to interrogate that and use that to inform and educate the user of the information. But you want to do it in partnership with the structured data, because you have it all unstructured, you're actually adding work to the user. And so, we're all about how do we make them as efficient as possible so they can do the thing that they're most amazing at, which is going away and talking to the actual investor, having the conversation, building the relationship, doing the thing that, as yet, at least, AI is not able to do, which is to read the facial expression and to hear the tone in the voice and to see what's happening with the spouse who's not talking but is clearly terrified of the high-risk strategy being espoused by their partner. So we want to put the advisor in the room talking to the client, and we want to make that the richest interaction that we possibly can. And we want to help them interact with the data that they have as a business in the best way possible. And that's a combination of both.
Yeah, for sure. So here's an interesting thing. And we say it's a little bit of a quarter twist on what we're talking about, because when we're talking about all of these technologies that are moving really fast, and you're obviously helping RIAs do a better job with that, which is amazing. When we think of it from a cultural standpoint, one of the things we've learned here as we are on this continuous improvement path and doing the best that we can for our clients and tweaking what we're doing, and sometimes it's behind the scenes, and hopefully they see the results of that, which I'm sure that's probably ringing a bell for you.
Yep.
What we found is some of the toughest things, it's actually not necessarily building the tool, it's having people use the tool effectively, which kind of points us at a cultural point. And so Ryan and I talk about that a lot, about, first we have to have a good process, and then we can automate it, and then it can be super helpful. But linking all those together becomes critical. So if you want to talk about it either from the, tips and tricks, if you will, from the RIA perspective that would help them when they get to using their CRM, or if you want to talk about in your own organization, what do you do to encourage the things that will help implement the technology?
Yeah, look, both are the same. I mean, our organization is no different to anyone else. Humans don't love change. We really don't. And sometimes for good reason. But what tends to happen, and if we think of a CRM, it's a core piece of technology. And whether you Practifi or any other system in there, it's core to your business. It is the custodial record of your client relationship. It's that central. And we think about how protective people are of the actual custodial record of the financial assets. They should have the same degree of care and concern. What tends to happen is they look to upgrade the technology, and the first thing that they want to do is say, well, the process has to be exactly the same as it was before. And, it's a little like if we use the car example I talked about before. I've just got the 2026 car, and immediately I want all the dials to look exactly as they did in the 2017 one, because I know where they are.
Right.
And of course you would never do that there. So I think the tip that I would say is, when you move or adopt any piece of technology, whether it's a CRM or a rebalancing tool, it doesn't actually matter. Start by saying, how close can I use it to what was built, what was delivered? And this is where those big platforms like Salesforce and Microsoft really struggle, because they're not built to be fit for purpose. They're built for you to build them. They're a platform product. And so when you come in, like if you're coming to Practifi, for example, as close as you can stick to what we deliver you straight out of the box, at least initially, because you can evolve with the platform over time. But we have Practifi U, an incredible learning management system that is designed to support your users to learn and adopt the technology. Well, of course, if you get crazy and customize that before they ever get their hands on it, it's less efficient or less effective now. So we really work to help people understand that you should try and adapt the process to the system, not re-engineer the system to the old process. Because otherwise you're not taking advantage of the benefit that you have. And that's true of new AI platforms or whatever. People are faster to adopt them because they're a different paradigm to what they're used to. They're not trying to change, OpenAI to look like something that they're used to because they've never used something like it before. But when they look at a core system, there can be a tendency to try and dial it back down. And I think for leaders in firms, the thing they're fearful of is the change management lift. But the benefit that they want comes out of doing that lift.
Right. Well, that change management is what I finished my degree in. So you're really talking my language.
Yeah, you should be well suited.
Yeah. This is actually where it gets fun, because the change management, you start with a small team, they see success that can grow within the organization, kind of a traditional way to do it. Creating a whole new system and adoption is a challenge. And something you said in there, I want to pull out for a second. You said that you created a Practifi U, kind of Practifi University, to help teach team members. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So everyone who uses Practifi has access to this. It's part of the product fee. We don't charge for it or anything like that. But it's a comprehensive learning management system. So if you're someone who's benefits by watching short videos, for example, or the video-based content, if you prefer to read or follow a tutorial or do an activity, all of that content's available to you. And it's there, and it's in learning tracks. So, if you're an advisor and you just want to get in and be able to understand your clients on day one and know where to go for the information, well, you probably want the 101 track. If you're in client service who's focused a little more on workflows and processes, you might want the 101 and the 201. And you head down, the 100 series, the 200 series, just as you would from a class perspective. And it allows you to kind of eat the elephant a bite at a time.
Right.
But the real benefit comes by using the product so that what you're seeing on the screen in the learning management system is exactly the same. We keep it up to date. We do 5 releases a year. We do an update for every release to the learning management system. So it's always in sync.
That's amazing. Because that's a whole benefit of having a good CRM. Some of them aren't as niche focused as Practifi is, right? And then if you're trying to teach your team as you go, it's hard to keep them updated. So a learning management system, which you can use right out of the gate with what you guys have. So that adoption rate hopefully is quicker within the organization, is what it sounds like.
That's right. And if you go away and build custom on Microsoft or Salesforce or something, there is no learning management system. And as you build, it's not quite what you want. So you adjust and you move it on the fly, and now it's a little different again. And the onus falls to the firm to try and keep up with all of that change and constantly communicate it. And that's a huge ask.
Yeah. That continuous improvement of keeping things updated is just a challenge across the board. When the world's moving and you're moving and coordinating it, I guess as leaders, these are something that we're always challenged with. It's a fun challenge, I think,
It's
And
great.
you must enjoy it because you've been doing it for a decade at least, right?
Yeah. It's really fun, and I think the piece there is for me is like, how do I work smarter?
Right.
Like, I don't want to, if I'm an RIA, why am I hiring someone internally to build my system for me? Why am I hiring someone else to document it? Why am I worried about releases and having to test them? And like, I'm an RIA. I want to talk to clients.
Yep.
So
Well,
why
tell
am I
me,
building a tech team?
and you're right. I mean, I think the beauty of technology, what we're learning and figuring out every day is figuring out how to support, good technology supports the user so they can do what they do best, which is that soft interaction. And I think that advisors are always going to be needed because let's face it, I don't want to talk. I guess I'm a little bit older, got some gray hair. I would rather talk to a person than a computer. Yeah, it just keeps going gray for me and goes back. Don't worry, eventually I'll catch up to you.
I don't think I don't see a future where the advisor goes away, because humans, we're not going to suddenly stop being pack animals who rely on trust first and foremost. And yes, generationally, people will increase their level of trust in technology. They'll take more input, and we all do that today, much more so than the people who went before us, and the people who follow after us will. But we still want to look someone in the eyes and be truthful and trusting and have the conversation about what we're trying to achieve, because these are big swings, and people want to know that they can be confident in those big swings. So we very much see our job as, how do we power those relationships, not how do we replace them.
That's beautiful, because what you're really saying is it is the human first. Even though you're a technology company, the human first and everything supports that.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. Now, and I think that is the more important part of it. But I would be giving up some opportunity here if I didn't ask you. Is there some interesting thing that you see coming down the road that might be interesting for advisors to be aware of, either that you're doing at Practifi or maybe bigger picture, might be coming down the road in the next, I don't know, year or so on the technology front for advisors?
Look, I think in the macro picture, we don't even yet have the faintest idea the realm of possibilities out of just the technology that's around today. If you look at the evolution of the generative AI tools, we're seeing them verticalize. We've seen there's now Claude for financial services. Who knows where that'll go? So I think for advisors, watching and listening to that is going to be really important. But who they choose to partner with is going to be really important as well, because they want to know that they're partnering with people who are also watching and listening to those trends. For our clients, we've just kicked off a major AI initiative internally, and it's in beta today. And so every Practifi client has now, through almost the end of the year, has access to every AI tool that we're going to push out. And there are many coming over the next few months. But we want them to be able to use them, so we're not charging them. We want them to experiment and experience them and see what's possible. And so we've got everything from note-taking capability, meeting prep, meeting follow-up, admin tools like natural language workflow building, just a huge array of tools, both there and coming for our clients. And I think for anyone, it's how do I get in and dip my toe in the water with those without having to make a big upfront financial commitment.
Right. Well, and for those that are already working with you, they're there. You're in the middle of it right now, and it's like you said, we're learning how to work in new ways. Right. We certainly are here, and which is I think an exciting time to be. Well, it's an exciting time to be alive and an exciting time to be in this industry, especially because we both love working with advisors, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Tell me, so what we like to talk about landing the plane here, and because it's, we're human, we love that interaction, and this helps us learn a little bit more about you. And we like to end on kind of a personal question. When I don't know where you'll land. Maybe you'll go back to Australia. Maybe you like the beach. Maybe you like the outback. I don't know. I'm not Australian. I haven't been there yet. I plan to. Just to be clear, I need to visit the Southern Hemisphere and really get a kick out of it. But what would you like people to say with Adrian? This is who he was. This is how we remember you. Or maybe you're just sitting there and said, this was a life well lived. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think I think about it in an industry or work context. I want, I guess, people to think, Adrian's primary driver was, how do we help all boats rise? The more advisors we can help, the more clients they can help, the better the outcome for those individuals, the more they can support and help generations and others. So for me personally, a huge driver, how do we improve what others are experiencing and we lift people up as much as we can?
That's great. So personally, that's how you lift people up. It's that simple. And you can do that personally, you can do that in business, hopefully all around. That's what we get to do.
Yep.
That's great. Well, Adrian, I have had a fantastic time. I hope that the clients that are hearing this, the prospective clients for you and us, or even if they don't become clients, that they get a little bit of a lift.
Absolutely.
They've got some tips, they've got some tricks, some things to think about maybe they haven't thought about before. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate so much the opportunity to chat. It's been a blast. And I hope someone takes something out of the piece, even if it's one person and it's one little nugget and makes their world better, then it was time well spent.
That's fantastic. And what we're going to do on the website is and in the show notes and all of that good stuff, we're going to make sure and have the information per Practifi. What's the best way for people if they say, oh, that Adrian guy's pretty interesting, I want to chat with him directly, or maybe one of your team members? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
So the best way to connect with us is just straight through our website, just practifi.com. But of course, if you want to connect with me directly, probably the best way is just LinkedIn. Look me up, send me a note. I'm a relationship guy, so I love to chat. So reach out. Fantastic.
Well, we'll have all that in the show notes. And, again, thank you so much. So glad to have you here. And we'll probably, if I'm guessing at the way things go, we'll have you back someday and you'll have something interesting to share, I'm sure.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Adrian.